You are connected to the Evolving Digital Podcast.
So welcome everybody to a new episode of Evolving Digital. Actually, it's a kickoff of a new season. We have a very nice lineup for you guys. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube. So today's guest has been around for, well, before wireframes were a thing. And he's evolved his expertise from customer experience to story architect, digital business development, social entrepreneur, and the last one is very interesting, chief cave maker. So we'll get to that later, I guess. A very big welcome to Mark Geljon. Mark, how are you doing?
Very good.
Good. Good to
Thanks
have
for
you here.
having me.
Yeah, well, good to have you here. So you've been educated on a more technical level, right? So what was it again? It was
System engineering and policy analysis.
right. Sounds very process-like.
Yeah, logistics, transport systems in Delft. So yeah, it was pretty system focused, process focused.
Yeah.
But also humans play a big part of it. So that was what interested me most.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, really nice. So how did you you started off after your studies. How did you end up in what you're doing now?
So that's an interesting question.
Well, let's start at the beginning.
So after my studies, I went to work for a consultancy firm specializing in optimizing front ends of organizations. So the forefront of CRM, account management systems, account management processes, customer service. And my role there was to think about how IT could support those processes.
Mm-hmm.
So involved in very big projects at big Dutch national companies in specifying IT systems, basically writing functional designs, processes, data diagrams, stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And was that like the beginning of your interest in, how do information flows work, or was it something that was already in there?
No, yeah. Coming from a logistic background, I basically translated my knowledge to information logistics. So how can you organize that people at the right time, in the right place, in the right format, have the information to make the right decisions?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I ended up in this interesting field of users and customers and players in processes, and basically needed to help them to understand what we were doing and trying from an IT perspective.
So was that? So you said you ended up there. Was it because you had this insight, or was it part of the process that you talk to clients? Because if you're working for a company, you're basically give you an assignment and then to get something fixed,
my thing was to at first make process diagrams, right? So understand how processes work in big assurance companies or in logistical companies. And I needed to talk with people from the working floor. So they needed to understand why I was there. And I needed to understand what their work looked like and the context in which they would need an IT system. And what I found out very soon was that it is really important to bridge that gap, to make them understand what we were trying to do. And then I saw there was a different world in the specifying big books of functional specifications, waterfall projects, right? So write specifications first, then build, then let it test by the environment, and then find out that
you don't need
you missed half of the specs, or it was not workable, or so.
And start over again.
So basically what I was trying to do, because like you said, wireframes did not exist yet. So in PowerPoint, I would make screen designs of systems and explain them. If you click here, then this will happen, and how would that support your work?
Right.
And that dialogue I tried to work in, and what we would now call a user experience design, but at that time was IT specification.
Right. So and then, fast forward like 15 years. We're talking maybe 20 years, but we're talking digital transformation. We're talking customer experience. how do you think that evolved into? Maybe the other question is that what it used to be? So where you started off, is that now how we look at IT systems on how they should interact with people?
Well, over the years we have basically evolved into an approach where you could involve customers or users in a much better way, right? So we're making the design, we ask them of feedback, we iterate, we do beta testing even, and we can incorporate all the responses in our new designs because we know that will increase the result at the end.
Right.
So in that sense, that thing is covered, but there are all kinds of other issues popping up then, because a good usable system in itself is nothing. You need to have the capabilities, you need to have the processes, you need to have the organizational culture also changed or optimized to make that transformation that we want.
Right.
And we can talk about digital transformation, but every transformation is a transformation for a better world, for a better organization, for future continuous growth, not for digital. Digital is just a means.
Right.
It's
Is that how you look at it? It's a means to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand anything from digital, right? So I'm not a digital expert.
Well, good to have you on this show then. Thanks.
Yeah, this show should be called Evolving Processes or Evolving
period.
Evolving dot.
Yeah.
It is a means. So we need to understand people and how people change and what people need in their processes to do their job better, and what organizations need as an ecosystem. How do they grow? How can they adapt?
Right.
How can they merge other companies into them and be more successful in a competitive landscape?
Right.
Those are questions I think are much more interesting than if everybody has the right tools to do their job.
Right. Yeah. So tech is more of a hygiene factor. It's an enabler.
Yeah.
And processes and people are the. We hear that a lot, right? Also on this podcast. But so you've been an entrepreneur for quite some time. Right now you're with a big company in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Focusing on this, right? On the transformation tracks. How is that? How are you helping your clients now? Because it's completely different clients, I guess, than when you were an entrepreneur, or is it the same?
It's more or less the same. I always looked for environments where engineers are solving problems because I like that. Engineers are really straightforward. They want the best solution. So they go for that and they're very passionate about what they do. And they're ambitious in their how to achieve that. So they all are motivated by a better world, right? But through a technical, their technical capabilities in doing so. But what they lack, or where I can help them with, is the context. So what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How are you contribute through your technical knowledge in the process, in the ecosystem of the client? And having done that in big multinational tech and high-tech companies, I'm now working in an engineering firm with Witteveen+Bos in a new engineering arena with all the transformations that we have as a society, right? So the energy, the biodiversity.
Yeah, you guys are tackling a lot of the big questions right now, right? It's
so for the purpose part, it's really great because in the end, if you're helping a big manufacturer to optimize their partner ecosystem, basically you help them to sell more products.
Right.
I feel that we need to change our mental models around production and consumption. So we should not produce more and consume more as a sort of basic principle of a better world. We should try to adapt and do less maybe, or change that whole perspective on what is good. So if I help a company sell more, then from a purpose part, from my internal self, basically, I feel, do I help the world getting better now, or am I making the problem worse?
And is that now a conscious decision that you bring to work, and bring to your clients as well?
I think if we look at what we are doing, we should be humble, right? So we, as a human species, are very arrogant in thinking that we can use the globe for our better future, and that we will solve everything from a technical perspective. But I think that it is a destructive mindset, and we should just be a little bit more humble and think, okay, what if we are wrong? There are all kinds of signs that the world is getting worse from a climate perspective, but also from melting ice caps to dying out species. We should be humble and think, okay, how can we improve things without creating the win-win of we can have growth and we will have a better world. I think we need to challenge our growth paradigm, basically.
Right. Okay, that's very interesting because with evolving and growth and progress, we always think it's a really it's a very bright future, right? If we do things smarter, faster, more efficient, thinking, we'll most likely get to the AI thing later. But we had a very interesting question when we said in our company, we need to start thinking more and more AI first or AI driven. And there was a question from one of the marketeers in our organizations, and she said, well, that's cool, but if we do that, did anybody think about what that does to our footprint? And we kind of didn't think about that yet. So it was a really good question. But I think it's interesting that you bring that to this whole technical. I mean, Witteveen+Bos, for me, it's roads, bridges, dikes, whatever. But of course, it has a big impact on where you start and how you put technology and digital even.
But apart from the roads, bridges, and dikes, it's also water quality. It's also energy transformation decisions that you need to make. And we need to support the government in making the right decisions. For example, with energy transition, where to put wind farms, how much buildings you can allow to be built based from the ecological constraints that you have. Yeah. And so I'm not saying we do not need to use our technical capabilities in that sense, and do not fuel the growth question, because the population is growing. So there's growth is part of it, because we cannot prevent the population to grow, right? So growth is
it's frowned upon.
It's frowned upon. But growth as an economic paradigm, that I think all kinds of degrowth, but also the donut economy, degrowth initiatives, I think it's very interesting to see how can we move away from that old paradigms that are basically 100 years old. And we're in a world now that we say everything is changing, everything is being disrupted, but we're not challenging that mental models.
Right.
So that's the only thing I'm saying. We need to challenge that mental models, and as a individual, see how can I, without buying more stuff, improve my quality of life.
Right.
So maybe I need to make other decisions there, and not end up in throwing away my phone every 2 years and buy a new one. But and you could there are even brands like Fairphone doing so, but also make conscious decisions on. For me, for example, I buy a refurbished phone and try to use it as long as possible, and extend that use time over time. And then, if I feel I need to move away from that, then I have a child who can use it for a couple of years more.
Right.
So try to lengthen the things you're using without wanting to have the latest.
And that's as a
technology.
consumer and as a professional. Do you also talk to your clients about, I know there's in consumer especially, but things are being made
Mhm.
to have a certain life cycle. It might be,
Yeah, but
for some reason, all our dishwashers
Yep.
break at the same time in our
Yep.
office. Is that something that you also kind of put out there for people to think about?
Not per se, but I think we need to challenge the way that businesses are earning their money, right? So if you're into dishwashers and your business model is to sell as much as possible of them, because then you have the funds to be to have continuity in your company, for example. Maybe you should look with more emphasis on alternate business models. For example, taking back the old dishwashers, the cradle to cradle or circularity discussions.
And how about looping in digital again, but putting the sensors in the machines that will tell your company, okay, you need to replace this part instead of waiting for the whole thing to fail.
Yeah.
Right.
But then not as a gimmick or a gadget, or trying to win in the red ocean of dishwashers, sell as much dishwashers as possible.
Yeah.
But as a true purpose-driven decision.
Yeah.
And I think that is the important part for companies to have that more integrated. Is not have every company has a sustainability or a social responsibility story, right?
Yeah.
And they have a story for the strategy or the purpose of being of the company. But often those are two separate stories. I think the companies that merge that and really find their new purpose and are able to tell that to the audience, those are the companies that will win in the future. Because we as consumers and also as professionals want to, we as a company want to connect with those companies who really think they can play a part in a new form of society.
So I'm very intrigued, but also I'm very curious what the freak is in your toolbox to get this done, because making a company change to and even when it's not just the company that have to find their sense of purpose, I guess, but also shareholders, right? Yeah. They're in the company with a slightly different mindset.
I don't think so. I think because
in general, no.
Maybe in general, but I'm not trying to generalize people and shave them on one comb or.
Yeah, that's a nice one. We'll keep that in.
No. Should not translate sayings.
Dutch words. Yeah.
No. But I was at Crossroads in the Utrecht. That's an event for investors, and what struck me is that all the investors there are talking about sustainability and sustainable investments, not because per se they're as driven as I am or others, because they want to make the world better. Maybe they are. I cannot see that or experience that. But in the models that they use for their investment decisions and to make their investments sustainable, they are setting clear standards and for sustainable initiatives to invest in.
Yeah.
So it
pushes
also
the
there.
Organizations as well to.
Yeah, the start and scale-ups have a sustainable profile. Are more likely to get to be invested in.
Yeah.
So in that sense, on all parts, I think the change is happening, and I'm not saying we should have a revolution or something, but I think that companies who are open to do that, and I will come back to your question on what is in my toolbox, but the companies that are willing to do that, will win.
Yeah.
And in my toolbox, basically, what I did and what I talked about in that process design, building bridges and making people understand both IT, the digital side, and the organization side. Yeah. That's still in my toolbox. And what I use today is storytelling methodologies to basically help both people in the workplace or in the boardroom tell the stories where they can reach to the people that they need for the change.
Right. And maybe for the people listening, but storytelling is also, for me, it's a big thing, right? I mean, and it's not just telling the brand story; it's change stories, I guess. Evolving your organization. Is that?
It's basically what I said. So incorporating the purpose of a company with the social responsibility they have as a company in a core story, a core narrative that they can use for themselves to make better strategic decisions, but also for sharing with their audience and their shareholders
To
connect and say, this is where we're going to, and this is what we know, and this is what the challenges are. And
that requires a certain amount of transparency, I guess.
You can decide that for themselves. It is a very transparent and open process. But you need to be very careful what you share with who.
Yeah.
But the methodologies I created over the years allow you to do that, and I call that story architecture, right?
Yep.
So to have the right building blocks, you could see as Lego blocks, have clear what they are for yourself, have a clear structure in where you build them. That's your core story,
right.
And then based on the audience you need to mobilize or need to engage with, form the right story, and then tell what you need to tell them at that moment to engage, to connect, to motivate them, to mobilize them, even to contribute to the change that's needed.
And of course, I'm trying to get back to the whole digital thing as well. But so storytelling, story architecture, that's your kind of go-to means to make change happen.
Yeah.
How is digital, not just a website, but the whole digital landscape that we have available now to us as a tool? How did that help you? Do you have an example? Is there something you can share that was?
Yeah, I wrote an article once about the layers of customer experience, and for me there are 3 layers there. So the first layer is the value, the purpose, the purpose story, right?
Yeah.
So the storytelling layer, where companies need to share what their purpose is and their moral ambition, so they can connect with the right audience. The second layer is about value. It's about value for money, but also values you have as a company, and make sure that is translated into the services you offer, to the right products you are developing. And at the third layer is the interaction layer. You need to have a good interaction, right? So if you want to have good customer experience, you need to have all of those 3. Good interaction, so good customer journey, optimized with digital, all kinds of channels, chat, what have you. That's very important, because without that, people are going elsewhere. But it needs. On top of that, you need to have that value, because I need to get value for money from you as a company, and I need to have a feeling that I'm contributing to the right purpose, or that I am dealing with a company who is true about their values.
Yeah, and matches my own personal values.
Yeah.
Right. Is there, and you mentioned social, and you mentioned platforms and stuff like that, but is there anything that brands or companies or professionals that are working this angle, are there any pitfalls that you can say, okay, so are there any mistakes that companies made in that is a pitfall? Because it's...
Yeah, I think that what I've seen in those multinational companies is that well-willing people are working hard with all their passion put into their work on the wrong things.
Okay.
Because in order to, in that complex and dynamic environments, to achieve something, you need to scope, right? And if you scope it in the wrong way, you're basically optimizing the wrong things.
Right.
So then you're working with all your passion on something that does not contribute to the bigger picture. And I think that is also with engagement. For example, if you make a customer journey,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of customer journeys that were not made by us but by others, and often they're just brand touchpoint journeys. So they say, okay, for this brand we have this website, and a customer goes through all kinds of digital touchpoints, and then at the end it is a sale, and there will be customer service afterwards.
Right.
But for me, a customer journey is about the customer, right? It's
It
not
should
about
be.
the brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not about the website. It is about what a customer does in his work.
Yeah.
So what I was telling about my job in those processes, I'm not scoping that in any way. I'm looking holistically at what are customers doing in their job to create better products, to innovate, to face the challenges they have.
Right.
And our website is just one piece of that. The websites of our competitors are also relevant there. In a customer
Nobody
visit,
ever puts them on the
but you should.
on the journey. Yeah.
But you should,
Yeah.
because when I was working in semiconductors and we were visiting one of our clients in Taipei, we were asking all kinds of questions about our website. How from a procurement engineer, right?
Yeah.
So we were asking, how do you use our website, and did you see all our new features? And we tried to optimize the journey. And he said, well, look at my browser, right? So he was opening his favorites, and in his favorites were 200 semiconductor websites, and we were just one of them.
Yeah.
And he asked us, do you really think I'm looking at your website? I'm finding information, and I need it fast because I have people that want to make a decision, and we have a short time to market.
Yeah.
And you're offering all kinds of new fancy stuff. I just want to find the damn information.
Yeah.
So that makes us think, okay, so we're one of the 200 websites. So we were trying to be unique in our customer experience, and unique in our taxonomies, and unique in our customer-focused experience.
Yeah.
But in the end, we should be. It was shooting us in the foot in that sense.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to figure out our website on the time pressure.
And what he actually needed was a tool that he did a quick selection and
Or an API with our product information,
Right.
or because he was copy pasting it into Excel. So we, starting from then, we moved towards offering Excel downloads of our data, APIs, more, even allowing. We created an iPad app allowing other product information to be in there as well in the bill of material.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So to service that person that you have as a customer, you need to be open to look at his whole bill of material, his whole ecosystem, his whole vendor landscape.
So listening, right? That's a big thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But in my experience, what happens a lot is that there's a requirement first. It could be we need an app, or we need a portal, or we need a website. Let's do a journey.
Yeah.
And it's already kind of focused on what the website can do or the portal can do. But what you're saying is to forget about, look at what your requirement is, like the question or the need of what you want to achieve, and then and go into a journey, and then figure out what kind of platform or engagement touch point you need to create.
And sometimes you're not allowed to do that, right? So if you're an agency like you have a trim, you should educate the why of what we are doing. And you need to open the roadmap. Okay, we're optimizing this part now, but let's have a discussion on where you want to go, because you're not having, you do not want to have clients that are just coming once and then are away.
No.
You want to, you're very powerful at Trim in working in long-term customer relationships with your clients.
Yeah. Partnerships. Yeah.
So then you need to have the discussion on the bigger picture.
Definitely.
And open that up.
Yeah. Good. I mean, it's a very interesting thought process, I guess.
Does it match your notes?
Well, no. Well, it does. It kind of does. I'm kind of figuring, we're talking digital. We're talking the touch points that you can create from your story, your journey, and then you create this engagement layer. Of course, digital for me it's like the first thing, I guess. If you're an organization and you want to reach out, or if you're a professional that needs information, I don't think everybody grabs a book anymore. Maybe some people do, but and they go online, or go into a fora and start chatting, or Discord, whatever, to get that information. Is there a difference between how you do that engagement, how we used to do those engagements in a physical sense, and digitally now? Is there a different thought process behind it, or should it be physical and digital?
You mean in the customer interaction, or?
Yeah, well, how we as a how we interact with each other. Everything is pushed through digital now.
Yeah.
There's papers there's no physical paper anymore, almost, right?
Yeah.
Nothing to touch, nothing to create. Is there?
I think
is that important to keep that physical part of the customer journey, or the when before e-commerce, or when e-commerce started, everybody was like, no, I'm not going to buy a shoe. I need to feel it, need to touch it, need to put it on my shoe before I buy it.
Yeah.
How many shoe stores are left, right? It's a couple of specialized ones.
I think it's becoming more and more important. So it's like a Gartner hype cycle kind of flow, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we over-digitized parts of the experiences. And we try to have a physical experience through virtual reality, augmented reality, and stuff like that.
Love those.
Yeah, but coming back to my point of sustainable purchase decisions, I think there are lots of opportunities for experience centers, for places where you can go in and experience the physical product, have a physical experience from a brand, basically, and not from a promotional point of view, but just from a you need to feel the atmosphere, need to feel the product, need to feel is the shoe of quality, right? So a Dutch shoe producer, Van Bommel, is very known about his long lasting production of shoes, right? So it's now also a very innovative brand from a design perspective, but traditionally their shoes were just of the utmost quality.
Yeah, highest quality. Yeah.
And they have a very, I love the saying, you will forget the low price you paid for a bad product, because you're stuck with the bad product, and you will forget the high price of a good product because you're still enjoying the good product, right? So it's which of those two are you choosing? And I think that's a bit of the thinking that is one of the solutions for the new paradigm we need.
Right. So physical is still is that also where, because in the introduction I said chief cave maker.
Yeah.
You might want to explain that a bit. I know you've been always, I call it tinkering, but maybe it's not the right word. But you've always been working on gadgets. Also, always been working with, creating a knife, or building stuff. And a little maker.
And in 2016, I had the idea for the Maker Cave. It was still when I run my consultancy firm with digital experience projects.
Digital focused. Yeah.
But in the realization of big ideas, you need to have and incorporate that tinkering. And also what I was seeing in the large companies that we were is a bit of the matrix, right? So all the employees are just plugged into the screens and just offering their brain power and going home and then start to make things, or if they are lucky, right?
Yeah.
So, and now we are automating everything, also the brain. Coming back to your point of the AI discussion, and I think that one of the things that we need to be good at to have a good life in the future is to be able to make stuff. to be able to translate our ideas into physical prototypes, to be able to show other people and engage with them about new ideas in a physical
What
arena.
would that bring us? I mean, I could argue, yeah, that's cool, but robots will do that in a couple of years. I don't need to make stuff because I want something. What's the philosophy behind you want to make things with your hands? Or is it brain? Is it creative thinking? Is it?
It is creative thinking. It is. I also hosted Lego Serious Play sessions, right? So we put Lego on the table, and we have all kinds of management people or just professionals around the table, and then I ask them questions to build something, to visualize something through their hands, and the thinking changes. The creativity opens up, and they build something in Lego that looks like nothing for me.
Yeah.
But then I ask them to tell a story about what they built. And they open up all kinds of things about their design, about their thinking, that were closed before they did that. So it opens up all kinds of creative spaces in our minds. Yeah. That's one. But also in working in that matrix-like environment where we are stuck to screens and to Teams and to all kinds of digital means, we tend to overuse our brain, and we can get all kinds of psychiatric problems, depression, burnout. We lose creativity, and I think there's a very interesting trend. It's called craftfulness. So if you work with your hands, your mind is getting more healthy. So it helps in reducing stress levels, in opening up creative spaces, and so the Maker Cave for me, the last couple of years, I've been making it a physical prototype.
Yeah.
Right? So I have that in Soest at this moment, and people are coming in and experiencing that, and they're all validating my idea.
So they come in with an idea, or they come in with
an idea, with but sometimes also with an overused hat, so to say. Yeah. Kids who are in school and who are only working to get all their tests done, and when they get at home, they go into Fortnite or other games. Right. They're only interacting in a digital way with their friends. Learning them to soldier is very healthy for them, and they're so enormously enthusiastic about creating something physical. Yeah. I think that's great, and it helps in all kinds of ways. I cannot imagine yet where it will end. Right. But
what you learn there, you also bring back to your the other professional side of you, and helping clients to transform and keep a creative mind. Yeah. Right. But for me, making stuff is because I want to know how shit works. Mm-hmm. So that's why I try to. I fail a lot with. I tried to build a camper van. I thought it would take me like a year. We're in year 4 right now. So, and because I keep trying things and trying to understand how stuff works, and now I know how a 12-volt electrical system works in a car. I never thought about that, but so. It does help with opening up your mind and coming up with new ideas that I bring to
and everybody has challenges, right? Yeah. So we tend to think that it is important to not make mistakes. Yeah. And if you're going into a workshop and you want to soldier something for the first time, or you want to make a 3D print, or have a CSC exercise, or what have you, I can guarantee you're breaking things. The things will get stuck, will not work out as you think it should have been. And so you're learning by making mistakes. And that's something that's disappearing in our lives. That tinkering and making and the physical world will help us in refinding basically that creative part that we have. Yeah. That could never be automated. Because it is. There's one part, the creativity. The other part, I think, is very important, is the ethical side, right? So we need to think if what we are doing is right for humanity or for mankind, basically.
Yeah.
So do we want to allow AI to decide on who gets cancer treatment and who not? Do we allow AI to decide which dossiers are investigated by the tax authority?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to live in a world where AI has that position? That's, I think, very undervalued in all kinds of projects that are dealing with AI at this moment.
Right. So, we eventually got to AI.
I'm making that bridge.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll just cross that bridge then, because that's of course where we're at, right? It's the next evolution in how we work, how we operate, how we interact with each other, how we engage with each other. You already said sustainability, big part of how you operate, what you think is important. So and the ethical part, of course, is also something that you should consider. Is there anything else that, as you could share or think with or share with professionals or organizations on where is this going? Is this do we need to be focused on? Do we should set it loose, or should we? Because that's kind of what's happening in the U.S., right? They put a lot of money in it, and there's of course still, thank God, a lot of people that are thinking about the whole ethical side and the impact it will have on everybody. But it's a commercially driven kind of a next step that is going on there. And is there anything here that you want to share with our listeners to say, just make sure in your daily work, be conscious of something?
Yeah, be conscious of ask yourself the question: is the work that I'm doing the work that I should be doing? We're all under time constraints. We're all meeting deadlines. We're all trying to be as effective and efficient as possible in our work. But taking the time to take a step back and look at your own work and think, is this the work that I should be doing in this company, or should I be doing other things? Is this the work I will be doing in a couple of years, or is this automated? Should I be writing this report, or should AI write this report for me? And should I go out to customers, to the environment, to stakeholders, talk with them, try to understand them better, so that I can write better prompts, or that I can fuel more data into the model that I'm using? Cool. So if AI is a black box, it has an input and an output. We can control the input, and we should evaluate the output, right?
Yep.
So that's what we can offer. And our creativity, our physical engagement, the thing that you can trust me and not trust a model, the thing that we have a relationship together, the thing that that I can empathize with your feelings and can understand your context. All those things will become much more important, and I think we will look back at this time as some sort of digital industrialism, Taylorism, or automated working spaces kind of time, and that we need to open more as humans to our human side, basically, and making creativity, engagement, storytelling, understanding physical and personal context of people who are in processes, I think, are crucial in that. But then that's my background, right? So.
Right. Well, I think that is a nice kind of a wrap up on this chat. So, what are your next steps? I mean, I read a blog, and you're gonna write a book.
Yeah. So, in storytelling, there are a couple of concepts, and I like the concept from Ira Glass that says, well, every good story. Ira Glass, the host of This American Life, is one of the greatest. Yeah, it should be your example. It's the greatest podcast in the world, it's said, and he's hosting that. He has a background from BBC as a journalist, a radio journalist, and he says every story has three elements: a bait, so a promise or a question, an anecdote, so the structured sub-story you're telling, and the moral of the story, the guidance on what it means for us in the future. And in this world, the first two are called storytelling, right? So baits and anecdotes. And what we are missing is the step back as people to look at that and say, okay, what does this mean, right, for us as humans? So that moral of the story, that is where I'm writing a book on. So how to guide people in storytelling and how to make sure that we're doing the right things, right? So it's good to start acting and to start doing. But if you do not understand the problem and do not understand the key thing you should be doing, the moral of the story, then you're doing the wrong things. So my book is about how to use storytelling methodologies, story architecture, to get to the right point where you say, okay, this is the essence for my company, for my organization, for myself. This is what I should be doing. So it will be called The Moral of Your Story. And I'm writing that at this moment. Yeah.
Very cool. Very good. Looking forward to see that being published, Mark.
Yeah.
So people can find you on LinkedIn, I guess. Right?
I guess.
I
guess they can.
Yeah, I guess they can. Mark Geljon. I want to thank you very much. Very interesting. I can recap it, but you already did for us. So stay creative, right? And really question yourself, is what I'm doing the right thing? Very nice.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Stay connected to the Evolving Digital Podcast. See you next time.